Welcome to this week's Friday message. It's about this time of the year where I get a lot of questions about how do you make a decision on calling a calamity day. So we're going to dedicate this week's Friday message to answering that question.
Every winter, Ohio turns gray as the temperatures drop. Snow begins to fly and students begin dreaming of getting the notice that school is closed. While students look forward to the weather changing, superintendents dread this difficult aspect of our position. The decision to call off school is one that is not made easily or without trepidation. It is easily the most controversial decision we make. And here's a peek inside to a typical winter morning.
So it's 4:30 in the morning. We're out here driving the roads, trying to give you a glimpse of what it looks like while you're all snuggled all tight in your bed. I'm out driving roads along with our transportation director. He's out on the southwest side of town of our district. And so what you see is you see some snow-covered roads. And our purpose today or any day that we go out on the road is to determine whether or not the roads are drivable for both buses and our student drivers.
The most important thing for the superintendent to think about is the safety of students, and in particular in Bowling Green, we bus a large number of students compared to some other districts, and so we have to make sure that there can be no problems, no chance of accidents.
All decisions have to be made in regards to the kids first. What safety is involved in terms of traveling to and from school.
Okay, so one of the things that we get worried about here in the outlying areas is that while we're on the road, and you probably can't see it very well, but there's about a 6-foot, 7-foot ditch to our left. And certainly you don't want your superintendent going in that, and your superintendent doesn't want buses or student drivers going in that.
Well, I think you should definitely go out and check the roads. Being an old country boy, I know the roads back in my home county, the buses have a hard time, so I think it's important they go out and check the roads and check with the bus drivers and make a decision if they think it's safe and not to go out for school.
So what we're looking for on these roads is any blowing and drifting. As you can see this morning, there's not a lot of blowing and drifting, but there's a steady snow coming through. But the roads are obviously passable. The road crew's been out all night and done a pretty good job of getting the roads clear.
Well, it's certainly a tough job on the part of the superintendent to make that decision to be fair to everybody. And so, in addition to listening to meteorologists on the weather stations, he certainly's got to make the trip out there, check with as many people as possible, and other things such as the wind factor. When it's below zero, that's very tough for young students, especially to be waiting for a bus.
So after we've driven the roads, we come back and start comparing notes. I'm in communications with my transportation director, along with superintendents from our neighboring districts. And we start looking at not only what we've seen on the roads, but we're also looking at the weather forecast from our good friend Ryan Wickman. But we take that into consideration as to what the forecast is for the next several hours. And we try to make the best decision that we can based on those projections. And unfortunately, those projections aren't always right, but we're always going to err on the side of caution. The difficult part is that all of this has to happen prior to 5:15. I need to make that call because our first bus rolls out of our compound by 5:50 a.m. So it's important that we get out on the roads, we make as educated of a decision as we can, and take all factors into consideration before that first bus gets on the road. So during the winter months, it's not just the snow that we have to consider. We also have to consider the temperatures. And as a general rule of thumb, minus 10 degrees below zero is the general rule that we follow. And so if it's going to be minus 10, either wind chill or current temperature for an extended period of time, there's a good chance we're going to call a delay or call a close, because we have to consider not drivers in this situation, but our walkers and those students that are standing at bus stops waiting for the bus. exposure to those kind of temperatures for an extended period of time could lead to frostbite, and we certainly have to consider that. So parents, one of the things that I also want to mention is that when I call a 2-hour delay, one of the things that I'm very considerate of, and just to give you an idea, is that I understand that many of you have to make arrangements for childcare. And so if I'm to call a 2-hour delay and then 2 hours later call a cancellation, I realize how much stress that puts on you and your family. So as a general rule, unless things change dramatically, it is a safe bet that if I start with a 2-hour delay, that's what we're going to stay with. Again, unless the conditions change tremendously, if we go 2 hours, we're staying on 2 hours. If it's bad enough, or I think it's going to get bad enough, we'll immediately close. Okay, so now you know how we make a call for Calamity Day. And while I'm out battling the elements and trying to make a good decision, our students are aligning themselves with Old Man Winter.
I wear my PJs inside out.
Put an ice cube in the toilet.
Put a spoon under your pillow.
My family listens to the Frozen soundtrack over and over and over again.
I put a white crayon in my window.
Every time there's somewhat bad weather, I just check Twitter religiously and hope that there's a delay or cancellation.
So on days that I call a 2-hour delay or I say we're closed, I'm a hero to most of the students. But on days that I say, you know what, it's good enough to go to school, we're going to stay open, this is what I get. And as always, Bobcat proud.